Welcome back, Wolfpack Verlis here, and this is how to use Gliscor. So if there's anything to take away from this video, after we review everything, it's that Gliscor is just broken. Like, this Pokemon's super strong, and all the aspects of it just make it the epitome of a tanky, stall, almost sweeper in a way, because it can wall out almost an opponent's entire team with ease, and then just devastate them. So when we look at the stats, stats are actually pretty solid. Now, 75 on the hit points, man, if that was any better, like, it would be just super terrifying. But 75 into the 125 on defense makes you realize how strong this Pokemon can be. 75 on the special defense means that it could be worse. Like, if it's 45 on the special defense or something, be a lot less usable. But this at least makes it to where it can't get immediately blown up by anything special. 95 speed means with or without investment, you can find some good outspeeds. And 95 on the attack, that means that there is also going to be a good amount of damage coming from it, even without investment. Now, another thing that makes Gliscor so broken is the ground flying typing. Now, when we look at this typing, you have an immunity to ground, an immunity to electric, and then a resistance with fighting, poison, and bug, while only having two weaknesses, water and ice. Now, water, you can survive some water hits. Ice is going to be a problem. Now, 4 times weakness to ice is probably the only thing holding this Pokemon back, if there is anything really holding this Pokemon back. Every Pokemon has a weakness, and this one just happens to be ice. Now, it is a bit of a problem because there is a lot of ice out there for Pokemon like Salamence, Garchomp, just the ground dragons or flying dragons, but then we have Gliscor, who's also weak against ice, and some people will carry ice just for Gliscor because they are that scared of it. Now, hopping into Pokemon Showdown, you look at Gliscor's set, and Gliscor is really just going to be one set, tweaked a little differently depending on how you use it, and it's just Protect, Toxic, Roost, and Earthquake. You use Toxic, you Roost, and then you damage Earthquake, and then you win, is pretty much the idea behind a Gliscor. Now, the setup is going to be pure defensive tank or mixed tank. For a pure defensive tank, you just go Impish Nature, max out the hit points, max out the defense, go and just make it to where nothing is going to damage you physically, and then we see where Gliscor is broken. Poison Heal. Pokemon's healed by 1/8 of its maximum hit points each turn when poisoned, which means now you can't get status as well. You don't have to worry about burn, don't have to worry about sleep, you don't have to worry about anything silly like that, and you're getting double heal from a leftovers. So you protect. So now you're getting 1/4 of your health back, and your opponent can only damage you once in that time. You use Roost, you're getting a lot of your health back for almost no punish, and then there's Toxic. So Toxic them if they're Toxicable, and then you protect. And now you just wait for Toxic to burn them down, while every once in a while just throwing in some Earthquake damage. Now, this set can be walled out by pretty much Gengar, or any kind of Levitate Poison Pokemon, which also includes Weezing. So there are some weaknesses, but for the most part, you don't see those Pokemon in every battle. I know Gengar is somewhat common. That's why you have 5 other Pokemon to deal with Gengar, set up with Gliscor, and then you just kind of win. Also, with this set, you are weaker specially, so you might also want to try to use the rest of your team to destroy anything that's special in your way. But then Gliscor comes out in the mid to late game, and your opponent's just like, well, I can't do anything to touch this guy, because if it doesn't have anything threatening it with its only 2 weaknesses, you kind of pick up the sweep from there. Now, for the mix set, it's pretty much the same idea, you know. You're always going to run Roost and Toxic, and then you change something around depending on what you want. But with this, you just go with the Impish Nature and then 252 in the special defense. This is at least going to round you out. Now you have just a wider pool of Pokemon that you can stall out, while just making it to where you aren't as much of an unstoppable physical wall. So there are trade-offs, and it depends on the trade-offs that you want. Also, it depends on the other Pokemon on your team. If you already have a special tank, I would recommend the full defensive set, because then you can switch Gliscor in on a physical Pokemon, and if something comes in and threaten it, you just go into the special Pokemon. Also, you want to have something that resists ice and potentially water. So if you can find a Pokemon like that as well, then you're just really set. That all you have to do is bring in that Pokemon, force out whatever is like going to threaten Gliscor, and then you just kind of win it up from there. And with this, you can also run Taunt. A lot of people like running Taunt because it's anti-setup, that if they're trying to get set up against you, you taunt them, and now they have to switch out, which means just more Roost. They eat an Earthquake coming in, that's a free Toxic. And the reason why this is so good is because the only thing that can kind of stop Gliscor is something that's going to set up, because with Toxic, with Earthquake, there's not a huge amount of damage here, so it's just going to take time to take out the Pokemon. That's what stall is all about. Now, really one of the ways of countering stall is getting set up. That if I start using Dragon Dance, if I start getting Swords Dances in there, it's going to make me stronger, and it's going to make it to where, well, now I can finally 2-shot this guy, I can 1-shot this guy, and after taking Toxic damage, you know, you're going to want to make use of that. Now, if they're trying to set up, you throw a taunt after the Toxic on them, Well, they lost a lot of health, their setup means nothing, and now they can't use that Pokemon as long as Gliscor's around pretty much. So that's actually really effective right there. And then these aren't movesets right here. This isn't its own moveset, these are other things that you can use. That instead of Taunt or Protect, you can kind of use Stealth Rock. People like using Gliscor because it's such a tanky Pokemon as a reliable Stealth Rock setter. You can also go for Substitute. That Substitute, it isn't as good as Protect, but it's also better in a way. Because with Substitute, you don't have priority. Protect has priority, but with Substitute, you do make a sub for a quarter of your hit points, while you're already getting most of that back from Poison Heal anyway. So now you just hide behind your Substitute wall, which could last more than one turn, unlike Protect. So it is the trade-offs, and Substitute, it just creates its own little frustrating things from there. Instead of running Earthquake, you can run Ice Fang or Knockoff. People like running Ice Fang because if they see a Garchomp or if they see a Flying type Pokemon, Earthquake doesn't hit Flying, Ice Fang is going to hit them super effective, so people like doing that as well. Knockoff just makes you super frustrating because you're going to have one nice little burst of damage. It's not going to be as high because a Stab Earthquake is really strong from Gliscor, but Knockoff's going to do a nice little chunk of damage, remove their item, which makes them even more vulnerable to you, and if they end up switching out or you switch Gliscor, now they're just going to be at a disadvantage to that Pokemon coming in. And then you can also look at Swords Dance. People will run Swords Dance just to make it to where like they Swords Dance into Knockoff, Swords Dance into Ice Fang or something. Maybe Swords Dance into Earthquake, but again, then you're losing a lot of your main damage. And now you're actually not as much of a stall Pokemon, you start becoming an actual sweeper Pokemon. The difference between stall and really anything else, I feel, is that stall doesn't have a win condition. That pretty much you're just going to rely off of toxic burn damage, and while that can become a win condition in its own, you're not looking to win in an efficient manner. That with setup though, you're using Swords Dance, you're using Calm Mind, you're using anything like that to really get rolling, that's your win condition. So I mean, if you get +4 on a Swords Dance, you're definitely going to be hitting whatever Pokemon is on the other side of that field harder than they're hitting you, and that's what makes it not as stally. I've seen Gliscor without Toxic, they'll do something like Swords Dance, and then instead of Protect, they'll also have like a secondary move like Knockoff or Ice Fang, and this can still be strong because you're just so tanky, and as long as you're doing more damage, you're healing up from the Roost, or you're healing up from the Poison Heal, and it's really scary. Now, when playing Gliscor, you want to be a bit conservative initially, that if you don't get that Toxic Orb going, then you're boned. Like, you need to have Poison Heal working in your favor, so without Protect, it's not a guarantee that if you feel that your opponent can status you, you might just want to switch out Gliscor and make sure that happens, or if you're switching in Gliscor, make sure you're not switching into any status, or else your Toxic Orb isn't going to activate. Once you have the Toxic Orb going, then you're good to go. And that's kind of just the main thing, that I've seen people not run Protect, and then, you know, you either have to take the risk as the opponent, or you also have to take the risk as the person using Gliscor. And it's just one of those things that you can use that to your advantage. A lot of people anticipate Protect. Protect is very common on it to make sure the Toxic Orb goes off, and if you can outplay your opponent on that, well, now you have a free move slot. So yeah, that's how you use Gliscor. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, Gliscor, broken Pokemon, very strong to use. It is, if you've dealt with one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It can be very frustrating if you don't have an immediate answer for it. So if you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a nice day.